Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening or watching from. This is Leadership Talk with Adegoke, and I'm privileged to have on the platform this beautiful day, Coach Patience Ogunbona from the UK, London, UK. How are you today?
I'm doing great and excited to be with you today. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You're welcome to the 90th podcast of Leadership Talk with Adegoke, and we're looking at leadership and courage. Yes, leadership and courage. I'm looking forward to hearing from you regarding this topic because I know a lot of us we find it a bit challenging to move beyond certain obstacles. So, thank you for honoring this invitation, and I'm so delighted to have you on Leadership Talk with Adegoke, the 90th podcast. Tell us, who is Coach Patience?
So, congratulations on 90 episodes. That is fantastic and inspiring, I just have to say. So, well done for this.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so, who is Patience really? And I guess when you ask that, Patience is a passionate and very purposeful person. I think it's always useful to have identity defining descriptors before you have title defining descriptors. So, I'm passionate, I'm purposeful, I'm also known as the visionary introverted woman because I believe that being an introvert is not being a box or barrier. It gives me purpose. God made me an introvert for a reason to spice up the world.
Well
So in
done.
terms of titles, I call myself a transformational personal business and leadership coach who helps introverted women to overcome self-doubt, to own their introversion and strengths, and go ahead and use this to thrive in a world that thinks that quiet people are at a disadvantage. And I
Awesome.
also help corporations to use the talent pool that they have to create the right dynamic teams, diverse and dynamic teams where they can really use the skills and strengths of their teams to achieve their uh, business goals as well performance, productivity, and profitability.
Wow, thank you so much. That's very deep for newcomers like us. We find that very interesting. I'm sure that even our listeners will be, so amazed about the depth of knowledge that you have, and showing up. I also want to thank you for your humility. The way you come up with, your messages, and it resonates. Not just for those who are learning, but also for those who are practitioners in the area of leadership and also transformation.
Hmm.
Now, tell us, how did you get into leadership?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said, get into leadership, as well as you saying that, inspiring those that are leaders or non-leaders, as the case may be. I didn't always see myself as a leader.
Wow,
And being that I'm the first of 8 children, that is another information about me. You
amazing.
would expect that automatically I had positional leadership.
Hmm.
But more than that, I guess coming from Africa, I felt like a victim more than a leader because everything on my shoulder,
Yeah, yeah.
and everything they will say, "Oh, you are the oldest, so you have to
Hmm.
take the responsibility," and you begrudge that because your shoulder is not broad enough to look after eight. In fact, not 8 people. We're talking
Hmm.
9 people because you have the parents, and then you have the extended family who doesn't care whether you have 7 people. So it kind of feels like, oh, that is not leadership. That's just position of bondage,
Hmm.
position of. But as time goes on, I began to look at what exactly is
Hmm.
my role in
Hmm.
in being the first in this family, and how can I really see it as a gift and an
Hmm.
opportunity for me to develop myself. So I got interest in leadership more because I wanted to enjoy the process of influencing others.
Awesome.
It's important that I enjoyed it. I didn't see it as a burden. So I
Hmm.
had to understand what's my style of influence.
Hmm.
Secondly, how can I make sure that people take responsibility?
Hmm.
Because, like John Maxwell always says, as you well know, both of us are Maxwell leadership team members. And that is a
Absolutely.
great organization that really that amplified my desire to really get into leadership because I wanted
Wow.
to make a difference. But looking at that element of it, of saying, how can I help these people to really get who they are and
Mm,
use their strengths? But
mm,
that then comes back to helping me to to lead right, to provide them with the guidance that they need, provide them with the direction that they need. They say you can
correct.
take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink.
Also to drink, yes. Mm,
And that's what
absolutely.
leadership is: not forcing people to drink, but inspiring people to drink without being forced. So,
Mm,
really, that is how I got interested gradually. I didn't call it leadership. I just thought is removing the burdens. But like I said, joining the John Maxwell team, it helped me to realize that this is leadership. It's about
mm,
influencing others if positively for good, and it's about achieving significance, not just success. So I
wow.
began to look at that. And I also, in 2020, amplified my desire for leadership even more when I decided to niche down and work with introverts. I realized that what I'm looking at here is considering building a tribe. And a
Mm,
tribe needs a leader, it needs
mm,
somebody who is in front, really
mm,
inspiring them to have a culture and a
mm,
way of thinking, and
mm,
an elevated way of thinking. So I define
mm.
leadership as elevated thinking to
Wow.
achieve, to meet the challenges that you face today. So yeah, generally that's how I got into leadership.
Thank you for that, very deep, perspective, elevated thinking. Wow, that's so cool. Because your thinking has to be elevated before you can lead others. People just want to look up to those that can provide that sort of like extra, something extra. Not they want someone that is above them, elevated. Thank you so much.
Mm,
Now we want to look at, why we're here, leadership and courage. What is courage, for you?
mm. I think one thing I was thinking about coming on this podcast and talking a lot about courage. Courage is my keyword this year. Each year I have a keyword that guides the way I see things, do things. And
Great.
really, this year, the word courage. And when I think about courage, I think about the story that I used to tell my son when he was little. And that's the story of David and Goliath.
Awesome.
My son lived in an environment where he was actually different. He's alone,
Hmm.
different. He was the only one like himself in the class, in the school. There were maybe two of them, and he had a pattern of that for the earlier years of his life. I
Hmm.
equipped him with nice stories about David and Goliath. So I taught him a lot about being a David that
Hmm.
faced the Goliath challenge.
Well
So
done.
that meant that we would every night we would carry our sling together, as a boy. That was exciting, and go, what am I going to do? I'm going to shoot this, and I'm going to aim it at his head, and I'm going to go, I come to you in the name of the Lord, boop, and I'm going to hit him. And he's going to, in his baby voice, and he would do it,
Wow.
and we will act it. And it was really fun. So
Hmm.
when I think about courage, I think about stepping into a space where
Hmm.
uh, you feel that you want to make a difference, and you might not feel 100% that you are equipped yet, that you are the strongest there,
Hmm.
but you step up because
Hmm.
there is a need,
Hmm.
and you are ready to grow
Hmm.
into the capacity and capability to
Hmm.
fulfill that need. So I
Hmm.
see courage as the ability to take responsibility, to champion change, and to direct and lead when it
Hmm.
matters, when
Hmm.
nobody else is stepping up. So, which is what David, who is a teenager, looked at
Hmm.
himself and thought,
Hmm.
whatever strengths, whatever skills I've learned up to this point, where
Hmm.
grown men, when grown men we on themselves, I shall stand strong. you know.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
that is what I consider courage as when you look at it from an organizational point of view.
Hmm.
I like what WeWork.
Hmm.
WeWork talks about it like this. It says courageous leadership is what every employee
Hmm.
hopes for and what every company needs. A
Wow.
courageous leader guides their staff without stamping out creativity.
Mm.
They lead by example. They stand at the helm of the company, giving everyone behind them confidence to do their jobs to the best of their ability. I love
Wow.
that definition.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, for me personally, it's been a journey of, pushing, continuously pushing the barriers and moving beyond every obstacle. And so I can relate to what you're saying. It takes courage to be a husband, to be a mother, to be a man, to be a woman, to be a girl, to be a boy, to be an employee, to show up every day. You require a lot of courage, and you find that at different levels of your life. I mean, probably when you're in your 30s, the kind of courage that you had is different from the kind of courage that you have in your 50s or even going to be in your 70s, So, thank you for speaking to that. Now, I want you to tell us what's the relationship between leadership and courage. I know you've described the courageous leader, but what's the relationship between leadership and courage?
I guess the relationship here is the actions that need to be undertaken. And especially in our world right now, it feels so challenging, really,
Hmm.
really challenging.
Hmm.
But when you look at from when you and I have been growing up, there have been different types of challenges
Hmm.
and there have been different types of advancements.
Hmm.
So, and the way to look at it is the relationship between courage and leadership. It's
Yeah.
about creating, it's about having the courage to create change. So
Hmm.
basically, that advancement comes from change.
Hmm.
So you have the courage to do that, but
Hmm.
then it's having the courage to face challenges.
Hmm.
So that is the relationship. You are looking at change and then having the courage to really help people to follow through with all
Hmm.
the things that need to be
Hmm.
done to
Hmm.
achieve that change. You
That's
can't
right.
achieve change on your own. You can't completely eradicate or deal with challenges on your own. So how do you build a community of people who can find the same courage as you? They are inspired by your desire
That's
to
right.
face these things, to also face it themselves. That
Hmm.
is the relationship that comes true when it comes to courage. Every leader needs courage, but some
Hmm.
would use their courage in a negative sense. Like we have a lot of wars come from people who are courageous enough to go poke another person's eye
Hmm. That's
and
right.
lead to ego. And there are those who have the courage to kind of help people. So I say leadership is service and sacrifice. And sometimes service and sacrifice over dictatorship. And sometimes service and sacrifice requires more courage for many people because you have to manage your ego and your emotional intelligence over dictating and shouting and telling people what to do.
Hmm. Hmm. That's so cool. That's so cool. Thank you so much. If you just join us, or if you're going to watch the replay or listen, have the special privilege of hosting Coach Patience Ogubono, and we're looking at leadership and courage. And this is Leadership Talk with Adegoke, the 90th podcast. Yes, the 90th podcast. Now, congratulations on your new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Um, she's resuming today as the leader, not just of the Conservative Party, but also in terms of United Kingdom.
Mm.
So she she she's showing up at a time when courage is needed to navigate, the both, or say the ship of the states, in the UK. What will be that advice that, if you have the access of speaking to her right now, because I know her intro is filled up with so many challenges, the cost of living crisis, gas price, energy, so on, and inflation. What will be one or two things that you like to say to her right now?
Well, I think for her, yes, congratulations to her, really. And I think when you think about courage, her predecessor had courage in his own way. So
Mm,
it's
mm.
he had courage in his own way and brought a lot of results in his own way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people began to seek a different result after a while.
Mm,
They began to
mm.
seek um, a different character and value system for the UK.
Mm. Yeah.
That then provided an opportunity for Liz to step out and say, I have those values and
Mm.
I have a different way. So basically, when I talked about the change versus challenge, there is an intersection for Liz in the sense that we were grappling and needing change. We
Mm.
couldn't take anymore some of the things that were happening. We wanted change and we wanted somebody with a different type of value. Then
Mm.
we wanted, of course, the other prime minister was already taking care of challenges, but we wanted a different approach to the challenges
That's
and
right.
that would align with the values we were looking for. So
Mm.
she's come in there, and one of the things I have to say is I'm glad you asked this question because I'm writing an article around things around the gender and leadership. And one of the
Okay.
key things is a woman a better leader than a man? So because we have this swap of when you had Theresa May and
Yeah.
Boris came in, there was a swap of gender. Now
Mm.
it's reversed back again. so,
Mm.
so it's
And you,
like it's like
and you have also had Margaret Thatcher. Yes.
yes, but that we're looking at the more recent kind of reversals that have happened. Oh, we tried a woman, and then went to a man, and we went back to a woman now. Who knows?
This is
When
the
there
fourth
are
leader.
elections.
Yeah.
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 So basically, I think for her, the courage. One of the key factors. I have about 6 factors that I talk about when it comes to courageous leadership, and obviously the first one is courage, but the second one is the
Mm.
conviction of your ideas, the conviction of your capability to deliver the results.
Awesome.
So, being a woman, she has to recognize that many times to lead men or to be in a powerful position, your conviction would give you courage to stand against your naysayers and
Yeah.
implement the things you want to implement. It will
Okay.
also give you the capability to look at what needs to be prioritized over another thing, over the noise, because a lot of
Mm.
people will lobby for what needs to be prioritized. So you have to
That's
look
right.
at what needs to be prioritized, who needs to be prioritized, and how does it need to be prioritized. And then the rest of the pot can wait until that is resolved. And getting the right people on board to do it as well is going to be her biggest challenge right now
Yeah.
because you are only as strong as your
As your
weakest
team.
link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you because I know that there's been a number of resignations yesterday, and everyone looking forward to our team, and you know, the team is going to determine how far the leadership is going to be able to solve the challenges. Now, I want you to, as we begin to wrap up, I want you to speak to that person out there that is having a major challenge with moving forward. I just want you to speak to that person. Just some words of advice, you know. And the person is going through a lot of fear and doubt and just being overwhelmed. I want to speak to that person regarding
Oh,
courage.
so in this day and age, we all need to have courage. So no exception,
Hmm.
including the person that has a lot, that the person that doesn't have a lot, because the fuel crisis affects everybody. Even if you have a private jet or whatever, it kind of the things that are happening around the world. Sometimes you feel that you can be immune, but they kind of filter through and affect you.
Hmm.
So, for example, yesterday I read in the news that one of the richest people in India, who was a chairman of one of the biggest companies, he had an accident and he died.
Yeah.
And the point there is when you also look at our situation, for example, in Nigeria, if the roads are bad, at some point, rich or not, you have to go through and follow the road, right? So
Yeah.
you can
Yes.
be a victim just like the poor person on that road. That's something
Hmm.
to think about in all our journeys, that we are all technically maybe at different levels in this
All right,
together.
we're all vulnerable to
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So if you're struggling, remember that the key thing there is you have to lead your life, not just live your life.
Mm,
And John Maxwell says that success is when somebody refuses to be a captive of the environment and the circumstance in which they first find themselves.
mm,
So you find yourself in a serious environment and in a difficult situation. It is time to lead your life.
mm,
So, what are the skills, the capabilities that you can find to lead your life? What are the
mm,
strengths that you can bring up to
mm,
amplify your solutions for your challenges? That is
mm,
what I would encourage you to do. Don't wallow in it.
mm,
Just ask yourself, I can't just be living my life by circumstance. Let me
mm,
start leading my life with
mm,
faith, with hope.
mm,
What can I do one day at a time, one change at a time to
mm,
really step my life? That's why leadership is not just titles, not it's the way we live our lives really.
mm,
So and it's elevated thinking.
mm.
Elevated thinking.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I'll just also like to add to that because to have the mindset of courage, also get into the right environment, the right spaces, because even coaches need coaches. You know, every coach needs a coach, and so it's so instructive. Now, two more questions. Um, if our listeners want to reach you, how can they reach you?
Okay, so I'm on all social media platforms.
Okay.
If all else fails, ask Adegoke. We are in touch constantly. He will tell you. But I'm on all social media platforms. My best is LinkedIn. I like the
Okay.
intellectual conversations that take place on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. If you type in Patience Ogumbono, I'll definitely come off. If you type in the visionary introverted woman, I definitely will come up, I'm sure. Or any word introvert, you might find some posts that I've written with regards to that. And even leadership, you might find some posts. So check me out on LinkedIn. For starters, my website is www.patienceogumbano.com. And, just reach out whenever you can. And Adegoke, who is the owner of this podcast, is also able to get hold of me at any time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to salute and celebrate you. You know, I mean, the little time you've spent on this podcast has been value added for me, and I know even for our listeners that are going to be watching or listening to the replay, or maybe might be watching at the moment all over the world, because it's such an honor to be sharing the platform with very deep minds like yourself, and we just want to thank you for coming on this milestone podcast, this edition. Now, finally, in 30 seconds, what would you like to just some nuggets that you like to drop before we shut down the session?
Hmm. My biggest nugget comes from one of my core values, which is faith.
Wow.
Um, when you get to the end of your rope, like John Maxwell says, he says,
Yeah.
uh, it's time for hope.
Hmm.
And you can cry out to a higher power to
Hmm.
help you and grant you grace.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
are really never alone. Some people talk about universe, some people, but the key thing there is remember you're not alone. You can call on a higher power. For me, that is God, and ask for help when I need help and nobody else is around. In these challenging times, that is a resource we can all tap into. So, blessings to everybody.
Thank you so much. That's you heard it from the lady, Coach Patience Ogumbono from London, UK, and she's added so much value on leadership talk with Adegoke. We've looked at leadership and courage, and she's also a courageous lady. She shows up everywhere, and she's adding value locally and globally. Thank you so much, Coach, for what you represent, and I wish you all the best and love to your family as well. Thank you for coming on this session. Would you like to say bye bye to our
Yes, thank you so
investors?
much, and bye bye. See you somewhere soon.